everyone, and welcome to our community design workshop for 4th Street. We know you guys are busy. We really appreciate your time and appreciate you being engaged today. Our goal is to end today's session by 1:30. So we will make sure that we allow plenty of time to receive your valuable feedback. A quick overview of our agenda today. We'll start with welcome and introductions, and I don't believe the slides are showing up. There we go. There we go. Thank you. We'll start with welcomes and introductions. Talk a little bit about what Project Connect is. We recognize that some folks who join meetings may not have as much information about Project Connect as others, so we want everybody to engage. And then we'll talk about 4th Street as a downtown transit hub. We'll talk about the history and context of the area, vision and goals for the future. Then we'll do a quick survey to find out what your priorities are. And then we'll break out for discussion and feedback. And then talk about next steps. So again, welcome. My name is Jackie Nierenberg. I am Director of Community Engagement for the Austin Transit Partnership. We are happy today to recognize, I believe we have Melissa Berry with Downtown Austin Alliance, the Alliance. Melissa, can you turn your camera on and say hello?
She is joining in a minute.
Okay, we will come back to that. Well, in the meantime, we'll go through some housekeeping. We're going to keep everyone muted and the chat feature disabled until we get to the engagement part of our event today and the breakout groups. If you're participating in Spanish, you should be hearing live Spanish translations at this time. And if you'd like to listen to the meeting in Spanish, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select the Spanish language option. Si gusta tener interpretación viva en español, por favor haga clic en el botón interpretación en la parte baja de su pantalla y seleccione español. We also have live closed captioning available in English. You can turn on this feature by clicking the CC button in the Zoom meeting toolbar located in the bottom middle of your screen. Si gusta tener captioning, subtítulos en inglés, pueden prender esto para hacer clic en el botón CC en la parte baja de su pantalla. And now I want to check in and see if we have any folks available to introduce. Do we have Melissa Berry with the Downtown Alliance?
I believe she joined.
Excellent. See if we can get her on the screen. Also want to recognize Assistant City Manager Gia Fandaka, who is in the audience today. We're glad to have you, Assistant City Manager. And I don't think we have Melissa just yet.
I'm 100% sure. I think, Jackie, that Melissa might be in with somebody else's link. I think Amalia Carmona. So I've promoted to panelist just in case.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens.
Great. All right, in the meantime, I'm going to introduce the other speakers we have for today's event. With me today is my colleague, Peter Mullen, Chief Architect for the Austin Transit Partnership. Peter, say hello. Thank you. We also have Jim Adams and Jana McCann, who will be presenting today. Hello. I'd also like to introduce Brianna Fry, who is with the Asakura Robinson team.
Hi, everyone.
Running the back end for us today. And Lonnie Stern, who's our Technical Director Extraordinaire. You've already met him briefly. Hey, Lonnie. Thanks for all you do. All right. It looks like we cannot hear Melissa. I'm looking at this message now. She says, oh, and we have a message from Assistant City Manager Fiandaka, who says, great to join you today. Thank you. All right. Well, since we're having a little bit of difficulty connecting with Melissa, I'm going to hand it off to her. She's going to be presenting our next slide. So Melissa, are you able to?
Good morning, Jackie.
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much for being here. I'll pass
Okay,
it on to you.
sorry for the confusion.
No worries.
So I just want to say welcome to everyone. We're so happy to have everyone here today. And you know, back in 2018, the Downtown Austin Alliance embarked upon a process to develop a community collective vision for downtown, engaging community members from all over the city. And what you see on this slide is the 4 pillars of the downtown vision. And what I'm really excited about today is that we have the opportunity through this 4th Street corridor to really achieve all 4 of these pillars of the downtown vision. So if you start to think about the 4th Street corridor as a place that supports our thriving center, and by thriving center, we mean not only the economy, but the center of community life, really. And that 4th Street corridor can really be the launching pad to the center of community life. Also creating welcoming places that welcome everyone into the city, helping to really evolve our neighborhoods within downtown, and of course, leading mobility. So today we're really excited because this is the first chance we have to really think about the 4th Street corridor as achieving these really important priorities of the downtown vision. And I think you'll see on the next slide that, you know, the other really exciting opportunity we have here is through our recovery roadmap, really looking at the opportunities for recovery. One of the big things we identified with that work is this opportunity that these major infrastructure projects have. And the Project Connect being one of these major infrastructure projects is the opportunity to really transform downtown with placemaking. So really excited to be here today and start thinking about 4th Street and the corridor as a place, and appreciate everyone being here.
Thanks, Melissa. So I mentioned that we were going to do a quick overview about Project Connect. It's important that everybody has the information they need to be able to provide some meaningful feedback today. So we'd like to do a quick run through of why Project Connect, what's it all about. I don't think it's any secret to any of you out there that our population is exploding in Austin. And in fact, it's expected to double by the year 2040. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of single occupancy vehicles. We need a solution, and Project Connect is that solution to expand our transit system and provide new services to connect Austinites to the places they need to go. Next slide, please. So one of the important things that happened to set the stage for Project Connect was that our partners at the City of Austin approved a strategic mobility plan in 2019. And that plan, how it sets the stage is that it sets a goal for having a 50-50 mode split between people taking bike, transit, or other non-drive alone modes to work to everything else. As you can see in 2019, when it was passed, 74% of the people traveling in Austin were using single occupancy vehicles. So that is unsustainable and it needs to change. And the City of Austin provided that vision for us and allows us to move forward with Project Connect. Next slide, please. So Project Connect is a transit plan. It includes a new light rail system. That's probably the part that most people have heard about. That system also includes a transit tunnel under downtown that makes everyone's trip faster. It also includes expanded bus service with 4 new Metro Rapid routes, plus new park and rides and 3 pickup zones. Pickup is our on-demand neighborhood circulator service. We launched that about 3 years ago and are continuing to add more neighborhood zones to that service called Pickup. And then finally, but most importantly, a transition to a zero emissions fleet so that we are no longer contributing to the carbon footprint of our city, but actually improving your environmental quality. Next slide, please. So the three values that reflect the community and Project Connect: opportunity and equity. In other words, Project Connect will help create thousands of good local jobs, provide access to healthcare, education, employment, entertainment, and essential services. It's also going to create and maintain more affordable places to live. This is designed to help us move forward to a future without limits. Environment and sustainability. There's a shared passion in our community for the environment, and that's why a commitment to environment and sustainable practices are core to Project Connect, including that zero emissions fleet. We lean into the challenge to conserve and protect natural resources in the decisions we will make. And then finally, innovation and technology. Technology and innovation inspire much of who we are as a region, and Project Connect will embrace that spirit, making transportation smarter, more efficient, more enjoyable, and easier to use. Next slide. So what are we discussing today? Today, we're going to be talking about options for the right-of-way along 4th Street, one of the key downtown and transfer stations in the new Project Connect system. Seven different transit services will converge along 4th Street. The orange line, light rail line, the blue line, that's the light rail service that will run from the airport into downtown, the Metro Rapid and local bus services, the Gold Line Metro Rapid, the Expo Centro bus rapid transit, Green Line commuter rail, and the Red Line commuter rail. So this will become a major transit hub. Next slide. So we often get the question, and it's valid, how will your feedback be incorporated? And the answer is, we are in the phase of environmental impact statement, a draft environmental impact statement, and moving from 15% design into 30% design. This is a critical phase in the development of the project, of the program rather, and your input that we get today will inform this next phase, which will be 30% design and the draft environmental impact statement. Next slide. We want to encourage you all to stay involved beyond this meeting. This is actually an extension of our working groups that were established back in the spring. And this one is a meeting of the Project Connect Downtown Working Group. As part of this group, you will volunteer with your neighbors to meet the project team, give feedback, and help the design team understand how Project Connect can best serve our community. Your feedback will be used throughout the process of the environmental study and through project development. If you're not signed up already, we encourage you to do so at projectconnect.com/get involved to sign up for a working group. And you can sign up for one or as many as you'd like. We're happy to have you in any and all of these discussion groups. A summary report from today's meeting will be shared with the community on our community engagement dashboard, which can be found on the projectconnect.com website /get involved. Next slide. And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Peter Mullen, who will talk about the 4th Street Downtown Transit Hub.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it. Really excited about this part of the program and this part of the system. I think it really it embodies our goal of taking a human-centric approach towards transit and using this new transit investment to improve our lives on a whole bunch of fronts and really to reimagine elements of the public realm where we can. Go to the next, please. So this is a map of the alignment downtown. You can see there are 3 stations organized around 4th Street. Republic Square Station on the west at Republic Square, Congress Avenue Station in the middle, and then the new Convention Center Brush Square Station, which is, I'll talk about how that works in a second. And then to the south, just south of Cesar Chavez, we have the Rainy Mac Station. And those 4 stations are connected by a concourse between the street level and the platform level to facilitate access to the stations and also transfers between the lines that serve those stations. And you can see the platforms are located in those white boxes along the way. The Convention Center Brush Square Station is really the current downtown station for the red line, but that's also where the new green line will come in, and there will be an entrance into the downtown transit hub underground as well. You can see the blue line coming in from the south on the east side, and that goes basically comes above ground across the river and then goes down into the subway, the underground system, once it hits the north side of the lake. And then on the west side, you can see the orange line and the future gold line that will run under the lake and be underground throughout downtown. Next. So this is a little bit of a blow up, a detail of that system along 4th Street. So again, on the left, you can see the Republic Square Station. The blue boxes are the platforms, and then the orange boxes are the entrances into the stations. So if you can imagine, even though the Republic Square Station, the platform itself will be located really between 5th and 6th Streets, a little bit on the north side of Republic Square, there will be an entrance directly above the platform, but also an entrance on 4th Street adjacent to Republic Square. Then we have the Congress Avenue Station, which we really aspire for that to be a real hub. It's at the center of the whole system and kind of the central station for the entire program. And then Convention Center Brush Square Station, which again combines the above ground station of the red line and the green line with an entrance into the subway to the west. And then just so you'll see those smaller orange boxes, those are secondary entrances into the downtown transit hub. And so those are located, we'll show you where those are located as we move forward. So there are these sort of periodic entrances to increase access to the whole system and make this whole system the use of the system as seamless and frictionless as possible. Next. So this is a 3-level system. You have the street level up top, and you have the platform level at the bottom, and then the concourse level in the middle. And again, the concourse level really allows this kind of very easy access from the street to the station, to the platforms, and transfer between trains at these various stations and the various lines that serve these stations. The other thing that the concourse allows us to do is essentially, the platform and the trains, they want to do what they want to do, right? They need to go where they need to go. The alignment is very fixed in terms of how the train can move and turn, et cetera. But the concourse allows us to really design this from the street down. And that's really the focus of our conversation today is as we do this construction project and build this new transit infrastructure, it gives us the opportunity to really reimagine the street itself. We'll have these access points to the system at both ends and at various places along 4th Street, but the street itself, we think we have the opportunity to reimagine as something extraordinary for our city. Next.
Peter, before
Yes.
we move on to the next slide, I just wanted to recognize that Councilmember Togo is here, so wanted to give her a chance to say hello.
Oh, terrific. Welcome.
Oh, thank you all. I just want to say thank you to all of those of you who are attending. This is such an important project for our community. And as all of you know who are on here, Project Connect is just going to be transformative for our community and really enable people to get around so much more efficiently without cars, so much healthier for our environment. And I have the privilege of representing District 9, which includes much of downtown. And I'm particularly excited about the blue line and the ways in which it's going to afford people an opportunity to get from the airport downtown, but also from other parts, connect up with other parts of our mobility system to get people downtown without cars. And, whether they're coming down for work or to enjoy the farmers market or one of our many restaurants downtown or the Paramount, they'll be able to do so in ways that are really easy. So thanks for taking time out of the mid part of your day to be part of this conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Council Member. And really, we're grateful for your leadership and for your support of the program. So we have this three level system that really enables us to think creatively, innovatively, and aspirationally about what the street itself wants to be. Next. So this is 4th Street today. Without offense to anybody, it's a little bit of a back street. It's I think not as activated as it could be in terms of being pedestrian friendly and being a destination in our city. And go to the next. But I think we have the ability to really rethink 4th Street entirely. There's going to be, and we'll go through this in the presentation, talk about, what's happening on 4th Street. There's going to be there are a bunch of new developments that are coming in addition to this new transit infrastructure. And so I think we really have the ability to be intentional about what we want 4th Street to be. And that's really where we need your feedback and input, because all of that will really pave the way for that future. Next. Okay, so I'm going to now pass it over to Jana McCann and Jim Adams, and they're going to take you through some of the parameters of the history and the context around 4th Street, because I think it's actually pretty interesting.
Thanks, Peter. 4th Street really is unlike any other street in Austin, and certainly in the downtown. One of its characteristics that actually creates an incredible opportunity for it is its short length. So it's on this plan you see between the two red lines from left to right, that's 4th Street. And you can see the green squares that it connects on the left or the west side. It's Republic Square. On the right side is Brush Square, which also has the newish plaza directly south to it. That Peter went over and explained where one of the new station entries is going to be, and directly east of that is the downtown station, which is the terminus line for the terminus station for the red line. So the length of this is only 9 blocks long, and historically it's been cut off by Shoal Creek, as you see on the far left, which corresponds to Rio Grande Street. So it's Rio Grande to the downtown station, or to Trinity Street on the east. And so this is an old map that we've mapped where 4th Street, which used to be called Cedar Street, is located. And again, showing that really important relationship connecting the two squares, which gives us a wonderful opportunity to create a very strong identity for the Project Connect system. So this 4th Street really is the heart of the system, and it has the virtue of being able to have these wonderful public spaces at each end. And you can see on this map, I think this is around 1870s, the development that's emerged along Congress Avenue, the sort of higher density stuff. And I think you can even see the first sort of rail line coming in on 5th Street that let people off at a hotel on the north side of Brush Square. Later, those rail lines came in and occupied 3rd, 4th, and 5th Streets, and really started to create a network that was used primarily by freight railroad. And so that lower part of the city really became used for warehousing and more sort of industrial uses. Next slide. So this is actually a shot, I believe, from the 50s, judging by the cars and also judging by the transit vehicles that happen to be here. You see, this is a crossing of Congress Avenue by an old MKT freight rail line train coming across. We're not going to put those kinds of trains on 4th Street, don't worry. And then you also see the buses that were coming on Congress Avenue that actually replaced the historic trolley lines that used to be there. Next. So when that freight and sort of railroad oriented time came around, it created these sort of elevated loading docks that we still see remnants of today. This is actually the block where you see the most of these elevated loading docks intact that created the loading areas for the warehouses above. This is a shot of Halcyon. We're looking east toward down 4th Street, and you see a couple of other loading docks on your left. And it's interesting because I think it was in the 1970s that the first warehouse was revitalized. You see it on the far right-hand side of the street. It was became a spaghetti warehouse, which was kind of a big thing in the 70s, is inhabiting the downtowns and sort of using those old warehouse structures to bring some new life and in what was really kind of a cool and interesting part of the urban fabric downtown. And it still is. And this is, I think, one of the coolest things about what we call now the warehouse district is, that it became this amazing entertainment district in the 80s. And it's still the place where the Pride Parade takes place. And it's a very significant place for our LGBTQ community. So as we're thinking about the uses for this street and its function, this is certainly an important one to keep in mind about the ability for the street to be able to accommodate important events in our community.
So as you can see by this slide, 4th Street's not a very busy street compared with 6th Street and 5th Street, which has approaching 1,500 peak hour trips, and Cesar Chavez with 2,000 peak hour trips. 4th Street and 2nd and 3rd are less than 500 peak hour trips. So it's a fairly quiet street from a traffic standpoint. In terms of bus movements, it's important to note Republic Square is an important downtown transit bus hub and will continue to be with Project Connect. So you can see with those lines, there are major bus routes that will continue to run up and down Guadalupe and Lavaca streets and circulate around Republic Square. So the block of 4th Street between Guadalupe and Lavaca will continue to have bus movements on it. Peter mentioned the Metro Rapid lines, the Gold Line and the Expo lines, which will come down San Jacinto and Trinity streets. It's not yet known or determined how those lines will cross east-west to Republic Square. They could occur on 4th Street, 3rd Street, or 5th Street. So that's something that we need to just consider as we think about the future of 4th Street. There is pretty significant, robust bicycle infrastructure surrounding the site. I think everyone's familiar with the Lance Armstrong Bikeway, which comes east-west 1 block south on 3rd Street, and then transfers up to 4th Street through the downtown terminal eastward across I-35. Congress Avenue has recently gotten protected bikeways as well. And there are plans to enhance the bikeways on Lavaca and Guadalupe Street as well. There's also plans to extend a 2-way bikeway down Trinity Street that will go all the way to Lady Bird Lake and across the new transit bridge to the south. So lots of really good bicycle infrastructure serving the 4th Street area. So this slide is just showing what businesses and developments require vehicular access from the street. We have the drop off of Hotel Zaza on the west between Guadalupe and Lavaca streets. We have the north-south alleys between Colorado and Congress Avenue, which provides servicing for those developments on either side of between Colorado and Congress. The Frost Bank Tower has a garage access and some service points between Congress and Brazos Street. 301 Congress to the south of that Frost Tower has a parking garage access, and the Courtyard Marriott has a drop-off between San Jacinto and Trinity. So those access points have to be maintained. So there will need to be limited vehicular access along the street at the minimum. And this slide is kind of wild. There's a lot of parking. We tried to plot just all of the public off-street parking facilities within a very short distance of 4th Street. And we find that there are literally thousands of parking spaces that are available. So the area is very accessible by car for those driving into this part of the city. And then looking in at the street and the frontages that exist, we have quite a few of the frontages that have ground level restaurants and shops. Jana showed us the Halcyon earlier. Hotel Zaza has a restaurant, and the Oil Can Harry's, kind of iconic business on the south side. Some of the restaurants like Trulux and so on exist along these streets. So we're going to really try to build on those businesses, enhance their opportunities for outdoor seating, and really look at the kind of activities that how they can help to activate the street. But it's also interesting to note the number of blocks that are in process of being redeveloped or anticipated to be developed in the very near future. So the block immediately south of Republic Square is being planned right now. The Hobby Building is expected to go into redevelopment within the next 3 to 5 years. The rail yard condominiums, you can see, create 2 block frontages along 4th Street. So really opportunity to really transform along with Brazos Hall redevelopment, that whole 2-block stretch leading to Brush Square. And then of course, the convention center is a plan to be completely transformed as well. So there's some great opportunities to really influence the kinds of activities and life that will happen along 4th Street. And then layered on top of that, just the improvements of Project Connect itself. Peter mentioned this, but every other block will have access to the concourse, either through a major station like we're anticipating at Congress Avenue, the head houses at Republic Square and Brush Square, and then the sidewalk level access points. And each of those will have elevators and stairs and possibly escalators as well. So really creating very efficient direct access down to the subway system. Back to you, Peter.
Great, thank you, Jim. So now we just want to start to look at some of what we see as the opportunities. Jim's, I think, already started to telegraph some of them, but to kind of flesh them out in a little bit more detail and get your feedback on them. So next. So this is actually a sketch that Jim made and was, I think, shared back in the summer, but really I think is kind of a North Star for us, and sort of to summarize what the opportunity here is. That how can we use 4th Street as this new green spine that's pedestrian focused, that connects Brush Square and Republic Square, reinforces those the importance of those historic squares, and kind of ties the whole city together. And we think that opportunity still exists, and certainly access to transit means it will be supremely accessible to people from all over the city. Next. I'm really glad Jim pointed out the fact that all of these entrances to the transit system below grade will have stairs, elevators, and escalators. And so accessibility, and for people of all mobility abilities, I think is guides all of our work throughout the program, but certainly here in particular, given that we do have a vertical change to make. And so, if we design for people of all abilities, then we're designing for everybody. And I think that is true for the street as well, right? How do we make the street as accessible and universally designed as possible? Next. So whenever we approach one of these design problems, we look for key parameters or key goals that we're designing around. And for 4th Street itself, we have focused on 4. The first is ease of travel and accessibility. This is both for transit of various modes, rail and bus, as well as alternate transportation, cycling and walking, of course. How do we make that as seamless and easy and comfortable as possible? Certainly, we want to enhance the user experience of 4th Street, both in terms of creating generous places for people to move and linger. We want this to be a place where people come to hang out, as well as making sure that this is a calm street. As I think as Jim and Jenna pointed out, this is not a high traffic, it does not need to accommodate high levels of traffic and vehicular access. So how do we make sure that traffic is calm and slow for safety purposes? Certainly, we want this to be a place, and Melissa teed that off at the beginning, at the top of the presentation. This is not just about movement. This is about creating a place where people, that has identity, right? Has singular identity and is recognizable and legible. And I think that, that short distance between Brush Square and Republic Square really gives us the opportunity to create that along 4th Street. And then obviously we do have to accommodate, there are certain operational needs, but for access to buildings along 4th Street. And I think we're going to show how we could do that, as well as achieve some of these other goals. Next.
Well, it's interesting what Peter's just outlined as the kind of key goals for 4th Street, and they have a striking resemblance to the goals and the functionality of our own 2nd Street, which this is a view of 2nd Street looking to the east, where we're seeing that really generous 32-foot wide sidewalk with a double row of trees that create sort of wonderful shaded spaces and cafe zones actually on both sides of it. And this, so what we're proposing as a starting point is using what the Great Streets program called the pedestrian dominant street type, because we feel like it meets very well a lot of these goals and needs that we just discussed. Next. So this is actually a cross-section view, kind of oriented in the same direction as the photograph that we were just looking at, showing a 32-foot wide sidewalk on the north side of the street, then a 30-foot wide roadway zone, and then third on the south side of the street is an 18-foot wide typical Great Streets sidewalk. And so, can we go back? Hang on. So that 32-foot wide sidewalk on the north or the sunny side of the street, sunnier because of the sun angles coming from the south, really provides an opportunity for implementing a lot of active areas of the sidewalk, including room for the station entrances, rooms for the stairways, the escalators, and the elevators down to the subway concourse. And that parking lane that you see in the street, which is 8 feet wide, can actually be more like a flexible lane. It allows for drop-offs. It allows for loading. It allows for even an extension, being able to extend that 32-foot sidewalk to become 40 feet wide, and therefore really providing a very comfortable and accessible space to really insert those subway concourse entries. So this is actually would be pushing it out into very high visible zone where we have those station entrances all along really the north edge of 4th Street. And so the other thing that we really want to continue to emphasize is that the calmness of the street will allow for a lot of micro-mobility movement for bicycles, for scooters, for pedicabs. And the street also will allow for bus travel. So we still haven't planned that, as Jim was discussing, but that this could be a pathway for that traffic as well.
So this is, again, looking at 4th Street from Republic Square to Brush Square, the idea of taking the, as a starting point, this pedestrian dominant great street configuration and then laying it out end to end. And again, this is a starting off point why we want to have this conversation is, how do we actually push that as far as we can to achieve some of these goals that we articulated and the goals that you all have. And so you can see here how, possibility of having a new pavement treatment over the entire length, showing where those entrances, those blue boxes are the entrances into the transit hub down below and Congress Avenue Station in the middle, and how all that could start to work together. New street trees, I think that's a key component to this. So that's what it would look like from end to end, Republic to Brush Square. Next.
And this slide here shows the 2 conditions that Jana referred to. The area where if we extended the sidewalk between Brazos and San Jacinto, where we have these sidewalk elevators, escalators, we could recreate or maintain a very generous promenade, access down to the subway concourse, and maintaining a 22-foot roadway in that condition. And then looking on the other blocks, the more typical condition, which would be like 2nd Street, the 32-foot sidewalk on the north side with the double row of trees. Again, as Peter said, just applying the pedestrian dominant Great Street to 4th Street as a starting point to see how that might look.
It's interesting to note on that these 2 conditions actually go back and forth. That is, every other block, there's a station entrance. So that's kind of really creating a powerful level of accessibility and identity for the whole system.
Yeah, and elevators at each of those entrances also, so fully accessible too. And again, some of you may be asking, why are we talking about the street? Why aren't we talking about the trains, right? The reality is that, all of this needs to work together, right? This is a comprehensive, holistic mobility infrastructure program. I think, and so it's really, I think you can start to see how the vertical circulation and connectivity down to the subway under the street, and then the design of the street, all of that has to be working together.
I think it's also important just to make sure that we're really laser focused on the quality of the street design and, making it a statement signature street and not trying to, kind of have the street be at all compromised by the fact that we've got transit or concourse level below that might also have minimal amounts of retail. So this is our strong focus for signature street.
And again, this is where we're starting. This is not the design, right? Just to be clear, right? We're starting that process. And so this is why we want to get your feedback. Is it, how can we make this even better? Right. And so that's really the purpose of today's meeting. I think we're ready for the survey. Should we go to the survey, Brianna?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So as they mentioned, we kind of just set the stage for the vision, and we're going to pause here for a quick survey. I'm going to walk you through a couple of slides that show some images of examples of some of these key indicators. You can see options A through G, and the survey will prompt you guys to rank all of these options from what's least important to you to what's highly important to you. So you're going to get a chance to rank all of these, and I'm going to walk you through some of these, the slides before we launch the survey. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, continue using the Q&A feature. This will last about 10 minutes, and then we're going to break out into breakout groups. So I'm going to be first introducing you to extending pavers and pedestrian treatments across the entire right-of-way. So how can we make 2nd Street better? with this idea. And we're going to be asking you guys to rank, is this important to you? Is this not that all that important to you? But you can see here, this is done well in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. And what you can see is the pavers there extend from the sidewalk into the street. And this really creates messaging to not only pedestrians that they have access and the ability to cross the street safely, but it really also slows vehicles down, which we've kind of been driving that point repetitively, because we want to encourage you guys to think about traffic really slowing down in this area. So keep this image in mind when we launch the survey. The next option here is designing 4th Street to be a bus-oriented street. So the image here, you guys may be familiar with, it's the 16th Street Transit Mall in Denver. And something of important to note is that this street is designed for transit only, and our design proposals is still incorporating vehicle traffic, but we really like to show this as an example just to show some of the urban design elements that can be integrated into a bus-oriented street to make it seamlessly transfer between bus to the subway, or from bus to bike, or bus to the shops, and thinking about some of the features that can really be added to really enhance that space. So keep this image in mind when we launch this survey here in a couple minutes. This next image is showing that traffic circulation can be key here in our design improvements, especially with turning lanes and curbside drop-off lanes. So we did actually throw 2nd Street in here just as a really good example, because we know that there is still parking on this street. We'd actually be using that space for curbside drop-off and loading zones for 4th Street. And we also went ahead and incorporated certain left-hand turning lanes where needed, especially when keeping in mind the bus circulation coming from Republic Square onto Lavaca Street. So you'll get a chance to really understand some of those dynamics in the breakout groups. But I think it is important noting here, you're going to have an option to, again, rank, is this important to you or not as important to you? Okay, number D, or letter D, is allowing for street closures and programmed activity and events. So right now you can imagine that 2nd Street probably could incorporate this level of programming, but what can we do on 4th Street to really create a space that is usable on certain event nights? Or something we want to keep in mind is the LGBTQ parade that happens annually, that does come down 4th Street, and it accumulates in front of the warehouse district where there's a celebration. So we want to think through what are the elements, even from a block by block perspective, that we can make sure that 4th Street has to really encourage this type of use periodically, although not permanently. Okay, letter E, maximizing opportunities to bring in natural light down into the subway concourse. So this is a beautiful example coming out of Philadelphia, where we feel the lighting, the day lighting of the concourse level is really enhanced. And we're excited to think through, you know, we might have mentioned that the station entries locations have been identified, but to this point in the design process, we haven't designed these head houses yet, the station entries. So, but this is your chance to let us know, what are your thoughts on this as we move this design forward? And especially with the idea of day lighting, bringing natural light down into the concourse. This is something that can be extended and enhanced throughout the entire 4th Street corridor. So again, you're going to get to let us know if this is important to you. Introducing retailing kiosks. I think that this is a good example here of a coffee shop. You know, what if they're smaller vendors? We would definitely be partnering with our City of Austin ordinances and understanding some constraints and ability here to allow this type of use of space. But again, just let us know how important it is to you. And last but not least, public art. So this kind of falls under the nomenclature term of placemaking. So, you know, you can let us know how important public art is to you, maybe some other type of art or placemaking elements, either honoring history or honoring present day. So we'll be asking you to let us know how important that is to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this Mentimeter started.
Yes, this is my favorite part of the show, Brianna. I'm really glad that you walk people through so that you have a picture in your mind, because there's so many choices. And you're afraid to just give you a list. And you're like, what's the difference? So thanks again for walking us through that, Brianna. It looks like we've got some instructions for a Mentimeter here that we can put into the chat as well. If you go to www.menti.com and you type in the code that I'll put into the chat to make your life easier, you can join us, whether it's on your phone, on a computer, on a tablet, or maybe you're watching this on a live stream. Maybe you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter or YouTube and you're seeing this live. We want you to get involved too. You don't just have to be on Zoom to participate in Mentimeter. So take a moment, join us online at menti.com. Enter the code 5839-3409, and then you can get started and let us know what you think before we move to the breakout groups. And again, for those who need it, it's www.menti.com. That's MENTI.com. And the code is 5839-3409. We really hope that you'll get in there. We know we've got 87 public attendees today, and we're at about 55 people who've logged into Menti. So we're looking at you final 30. We're hoping that you can get in there because we want to make sure everybody who comes gets a chance to participate and make a difference on what 4th Street's going to look like. I mean, we're going to build a subway, and we're going to probably be disrupting the street for a little while, and we can put it back and make it look exactly like it is today, or we can make it into something more, and that something more requires your feedback. So let us know.
And if for some reason you can't get access either by going to the website or using the QR code on your smartphone, please go ahead and just drop it into the Q&A box. We just want to make sure we capture your answer. And there's no, problem in us incorporating your results later on, but it is an option if, I'm seeing only about 65 of the 85 participants have been able to log in. So if there are technical issues, your feedback later on about that will also be appreciated. All right, we're getting some more. We got 71.
Doing great. I want to get this party started. I want you to ask me questions.
Lonnie, we just got something in the chat from an attendee saying survey won't load past the instructions page.
That's correct. We're still in a holding pattern. We haven't opened the questions yet. We're waiting for everybody to get on board before we launch. So thanks for being there. You're in the right place, and we'll open those questions in just a sec.
Everyone that's pressing the heart button, they're just anxious to get started. They're just saying, okay, let's get going.
I just really love that. I mean, everybody loves it. It feels like love just radiating out of the audience. So thanks for being here today. Let's get this party started.
Let's do it. Oops. Sorry, I'm trying to advance to the next slide. Oh, here we go.
Yay, here come the questions.
Okay, so everyone's smartphone and website browser should have just updated to show the first question. So you guys are just ranking each of these options individually. So you don't have to pit them against each other. You just get to decide, how important is this option to me? Is it not all that important, and we want to understand if it's not, or if it's very important, we'll make sure to, integrate that into future design iterations of 4th Street.
And those who have visual impairment who are participating today, we'll go ahead and read those options for you. The first one is to extend the pavers and pedestrian street treatments across the entire right-of-way. A lot like the photo that we were looking at earlier, where it goes beyond the sidewalk into the street. Then there is designed to be a bus-oriented street, meaning perhaps Metro Rapid would be running down the street throughout the day, even if there is some vehicular access beyond the bus. Then there's make sure that traffic can circulate efficiently along its length, including turn lanes and including curbside drop-off. So rank those in order of importance from 1 to 5 each. And again, they're not competing with one another. We just want to know how important each option is to you. That'll help us with some decision making down the road. We're doing great. We got 76. I feel like we could slide over to the next one.
Let's do it. Thank you everyone for your responses. So I'm going to open the next slide. I think. There we go. So again, you're not ranking these against each other. You're just rating them from low to high individually. And I'll take a stab at reading these out loud. So first you've got allow for street closures and programmed activity and events. The second is maximizing opportunities to bring natural light down into the subway concourse. The third is introducing retailing kiosks to further enliven the street. And the fourth is introducing public art that is meaningful and engaging to the community.
You know, when I think about bringing light down underground, I always think about the Capitol. You know, when you go to the Capitol complex, it looks like a huge rose garden. But actually, if you look at the roses closely, you'll see that there are a whole bunch of, skylights, basically, that those rose bushes are hiding. And so, you know, while we were talking today about just the head houses, and I do love that design in Philly, you know, we could be talking about other ways to bring light underground throughout the street. So just something to keep in mind. It's not necessarily that you're designing the head house today. It could be some other way that we're talking about light down below.
I think we've got everyone's answers.
What? Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people are ranking these above average. So meaning that they're relatively very important to everyone. I think that one of the ones on the previous slide, and I'm a little hesitant to go back just because I'm not sure about the functionality, but one of them I think was ranked around 2.5. So it did seem like that was about average to below average. So really interesting findings here that there are some relatively more important concepts that people are interested in. But as we start integrating some of these design elements, they're not a sum all game, you know, they're not exclusive to each other. So we can make sure to capture them in the future design.
And I know from speaking from the project team that we're looking at public art that is by the community, for the community, from the community. So, you know, you're not going to see big international calls. This, you know, we've got artists here who can make and reflect the city. Although I will say, as an aside, you know, going to Paris, you see those kiosks just ready on the side of the river. And I always imagine that we can just have a bunch of them in this space. But it looks like today, even bringing it up, that today people are more interested in activating that space, which is exciting to see. You want to go to the next question?
That's it, actually.
Oh, those were the questions. Wow, we knocked it out. Great. So that means we can take it to breakout rooms.
That's right. And are you going to share your screen, Lonnie?
Well, let's see. I think I'm going to wind up sharing my screen in that next room, right? Or did you want me to quickly go here? I guess, so no, I'm not going to share a screen in this space, I think I'm going to share it when we move over to the next screen. But for those of you who've been following along on other community design workshops, you know that we want to join a breakout room and have open mics, open chat, and talk to you about some of the design options we're considering in more detail. And in order to do that, we need to jump to a Zoom meeting that has a breakout room. So in the chat right now, there is a link to join the breakout room, and you can just click on it. If you do, you'll be moved over to another room where I'm not at, and Lorenzo will very likely be there. I'm trying to frantically move you into breakout rooms. So I'm going to meet you on that side, and then we'll walk through how breakout rooms work once we're over there. So again, go ahead and click on that link in the chat. That way we can move over to that space. I'm going to, Haley, make you a host. That should be good now. And that way I can leave and join some of you on the other side. So I'll see you in just a few moments over at the breakout room.